Welcome to Mr. Ace Math. This lesson is on the order of operations. Before you begin, you should make sure that you're comfortable with the operations with rational numbers, with integer rules for all operations, with what absolute value is, and you should be comfortable with exponents. So make sure you're good with those, and let's get started. So what exactly is the order of operations? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the sequence followed to properly simplify expressions. If you look at the words, it really just tells you what it means. It's the order in which we perform operations. You may have done questions already where you have had to add numbers, or subtract numbers, or multiply numbers, or divide numbers. But what if you have a question that involves more than two of them? Let's say, for example, a question that has division and addition, or division, multiplication, and subtraction. What do you do first? The order of operations is specifically to help you with that. And there's 4 steps to the order of operations. And each step is indicated by a letter. The first step is indicated by the letter P, and that stands for parentheses. Any work that has to be done inside of parentheses is completed. So when you see parentheses, we work from the inside out. So if we see something like A plus B, we would just add A plus B. But here's the thing. Sometimes you won't see parentheses specifically. Sometimes you'll see something similar to parentheses or something that does the same exact thing as parentheses. For example, brackets. They're not specifically parentheses, but they do the same thing. And they're completed with the same step. And there's also another one that a lot of you may not know about. Absolute value signs. Absolute value signs are also grouping symbols, the same exact way as parentheses and brackets are. So I don't like to use the letter P, I like to use the letter G for grouping symbol. So anytime you see parentheses, brackets, or absolute value, you'll do that first because that's the first step in the order of operations. The second step is indicated by the letter E, which stands for exponents. For example, we might have something like x to the y power. This is our base, and that's our exponent. We'll just simplify this, and that's step 2. The third step is a little tricky because it's represented by 2 letters. It's represented by the letters MD, and that stands for multiplication or division. This step is really tricky. A lot of students think right away that because the M is first, that multiplication always goes first. That is not true at all. It's a multiplication or division. So when you get to step 3, you're going to work from left to right. Whichever comes first is what we do first. So again, for step 3, we're going to work from left to right. That means we might have to multiply, then divide. Or we might have to divide, then multiply. If that comes first, that's what we do first. It all depends on whatever we see first from left to right. Step 4 is indicated by 2 letters, again, just like step 3. And the 2 letters are AS. And that stands for addition or subtraction. And it works the same exact way as step 3. We go from left to right, whichever comes first. So once you get to step 4, you should look from left to right, which means you might have to add then subtract, or you might have to subtract and then add. Whichever operation comes first is what you do first. Also, people use the word PEMDAS as an acronym. Each of these letters stands for one of the parts of the order of operations. PEMDAS stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, then addition, subtraction. This helps them to remember the order of operations in their steps. Just remember, we use GEMDAS because instead of using the letter P, we use the letter G for grouping. So let's take a look at this example. As you see, I like to have the order of operations on the side. I have each of the 4 steps here and the letters that indicate them, and I'll check them off as I complete each and every one. So let's start the question with step 1, Grouping symbols. What grouping symbols do you see here? Remember, it was originally parentheses, but any kind of grouping symbol, such as brackets, count. So here in brackets, I have 3 plus negative 5. So we'll do that first. What's 3 plus negative 5? That's going to be negative 2. And after I've done work, I like to bring down any of the things that we haven't used yet. So I'm going to bring down my plus sign, because I haven't used it yet, the 5, the minus symbol, and the 2 to the 4th power. Are there any more grouping symbols we have to do? No. So we're done with step 1. And now on to step 2, exponents. Do you see any exponents that have to be evaluated? Yeah, we have 2 to the 4th right here. And when we evaluate 2 to the 4th, we get 16. And then since I calculated something, I like to bring the rest of the stuff down. We didn't use the negative 2 yet, so we'll bring that down, or the plus symbol, or the 5, or the minus symbol. And this is our new expression. Are there any more exponents? No. So we're done with step 2. On to step 3, multiplication or division. Remember, this step is done from left to right, whichever we see first. We may have to multiply first, we may have to divide first, but that depends on whatever we see. So when you get to step 3, always start at the left of the expression, and just look to the right. There isn't any multiplication or division at all, so we're done with step 3. And then we'll go on to step 4, which is done the same exact way. We look from left to right, addition or subtraction, whichever comes first. Well, from left to right, we'll start here on the left. We'll look left to right, and we see negative 2 plus 5 first. So we'll do that first. So what's negative 2 plus 5? That gives us positive 3. And then we'll bring down the minus symbol and the 16. And is there any other addition or subtraction left? Yeah. We've got 3 minus 16, and it's actually the last thing we have to do. 3 minus 16 gives us negative 13. There's no other addition or subtraction, so we're done with step 4, and that means that our final answer is negative 13. Okay, let's take a look at this example. Again, I'm going to keep my steps right here and check them off as I go along. Let's start with step 1, grouping symbols. Are there any grouping symbols that you see here? Yeah. And there's 1, 2, 3, but I want to be very clear about something. When we say grouping symbols, we mean some kind of grouping symbol that has work to do inside of it. Something that has to be added or subtracted or whatever the case may be. These are not considered to be grouping symbols. These parentheses act as placeholders, because in math you can't have two operation symbols touching each other. For example, the division sign here touching the negative symbol here. It's just not proper. But there is one set of grouping symbols that has work to do, which is this one right here. Here we have 5 minus 3, and that's in grouping symbols, parentheses, so that's what we'll do first. And what's 5 minus 3? That gives us 2. And after we do work, we should always make sure that we bring the rest of our stuff down. I didn't use the division symbol, I didn't use negative 2, I didn't use the multiplication symbol, and I didn't use the negative 5. So I brought all that stuff down. Are there any other grouping symbols? No. So we're done with step 1. On to step 2, exponents. Do you see any exponents that we have to calculate? No. So lucky for us, we're done with step 2. On to step 3, multiplication or division from left to right. Remember, once we get to step 3, we should start at the left of the expression and then move to the right and do any multiplication or division that we see first. So going from the left, we see here that we have 2 divided by negative 2. So we do that first. 2 divided by negative 2 gives us negative 1. And I did this work, so I'll bring the rest of my stuff down. I didn't use the multiplication symbol, and I didn't use the negative 5. Now I have negative 1 times negative 5. Is there any other multiplication or division to do? Yeah. We have one more thing to do. We have multiplication right here. So we'll multiply negative 1 times negative 5, and that gives us positive 5. Is there any other multiplication or division? No. We're done with step 3. On to step 4. Is there any addition or subtraction to do? No. There's none at all, so we're done with step 4. And that means we have our final answer, which is 5. Alright, here's our third example. Again, I'll leave my steps on the right and I'll check them off as I complete each one. So let's start with step 1, grouping symbols. Are there any grouping symbols in this question? The answer is yes. Remember what I said earlier. Absolute value signs act as grouping symbols. So we'll calculate that first. And what's 4 minus 20? Well, 4 minus 20 is negative 16. But the absolute value of negative 16 is positive 16. Because that's how far negative 16 is away from 0. Now that I finished work, I'll bring down the rest of the stuff that I haven't used yet. I'll bring down the division symbol, the negative 2 to the third power, the minus symbol, the 6, the multiplication symbol, and the negative 3. Are there any other grouping symbols? No. Remember, these are parentheses, but there's no work to do inside of them. They act as placeholders. So we're done with step 1. And on to step 2, exponents. Are there any exponents in our expression? Yeah. We have negative 2 to the third power. And negative 2 to the third power, when you calculate it, is negative 8. And since I did work, I'm going to bring down the rest of the stuff that I haven't used yet. I haven't used 16, or the division symbol, the minus symbol, the 6, the multiplication symbol, or the negative 3. Are there any other exponents that we need to calculate? No. So we're done with step 2. Now on to step 3, multiplication or division from left to right, whichever we see first. So once we get to step 3, we start at the left of our expression and then look to the right. And look for any division or multiplication we have. So again, starting from the left, we'll look to the right and we see that we have 16 divided by negative 8. So we'll do that first. What's 16 divided by negative 8? That gives us negative 2. And since I did work, I'll bring down the rest of my stuff. I'll bring down the minus sign, the 6, the multiplication symbol, and the negative 3. Is there any other multiplication or division to do? Yeah. Looking from left to right, we see that we still have 6 times negative 3. And what's 6 times negative 3? That's going to give us negative 18. And after we finish work, we should bring down the stuff we haven't used yet. So we'll bring down the negative 2 and the minus symbol. Is there any other multiplication or division to do? No. So we're done with step 3 and we go on to step 4, addition or subtraction from left to right. Again, once we get to step 4, we should start at the left and then look to the right for any addition or subtraction. And the only thing we have here is subtraction. So we'll do that. And negative 2 minus negative 18 is a little tricky because it involves subtraction of integers. You should know that when you're subtracting a negative, you use keep change, and that changes to plus positive 18. So we're really doing negative 2 plus 18, and that gives us positive 16. Is there any other addition or subtraction? No. So we're done with step 4, and our final answer is 16. So here's your pause and practice. Just pause and practice. Hit the pause button, and when you're done, unpause the video, and followed by a 3, 2, 1 countdown, your answers will be displayed. Ready, set, go. Alright, let's take a look at our answers. Number 1 is 344. Number 2 is negative 48.2. Number 3 is negative 34. Number 4 is negative 473. Number 5 was very difficult, is 8.5, And number 6, another very difficult question, was negative 74.4. As long as you follow the order of operations specifically, and you're comfortable with operations with integers and decimals, you should be fine. So what did we learn from this lesson? The sequence of operations performed is called the order of operations. The acronym used to remember the order of operations is PEMDAS. Remember, we switched that to GEMDAS, so we use G instead of P, but the most popular acronym or word to help you remember the order of operations is still PEMDAS. How many steps are there in the order of operations? There's 4. The first step is to perform all operations in parentheses. Parentheses really means to perform any operations in grouping symbols. Grouping symbols include blank and blank, absolute value, and brackets. The second step of the order of operations is simplify any exponents. The third step of the order of operations is complete any multiplication or division. This step is performed from left to right. True or false? Multiplication will always come before division. That is absolutely 100% false. Whichever operation comes first from left to right is what is done first. The fourth step of the order of operations is addition or subtraction. This step is also performed from left to right. True or false? Subtraction can be done first if it is first from left to right. That is definitely true.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And thanks for using Mr. Ace Math. Don't just pass math, ace it.